Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear student, today we are going to discuss about comparison between solution, suspension and colloids. First, we will look that what is solution. So, as we are already familiar with the solution, that solution is a homogeneous mixture. Solution is a homogeneous mixture. Solution is a homogeneous mixture in which the particle or individual molecules or ions distributed evenly throughout the surrounding fluid. Now, what do you mean by homogeneous? Homo means same, and geneous means phase, and what is the composition of solution? Solution is basically composed of two components: solute plus solvent. So whenever these components are mixed together, you obtain a solution which is actually a homogeneous mixture. For example, if we take any beaker and if we add a little amount of salt into it, and this beaker is filled up with water. This beaker contains water, and if we add salt may be sodium chloride. If we add sodium chloride into this water and after mixing we will obtain a solution. Now this would be the homogeneous mixture. If we talk about the particle size in solutions, particle size in case of solution is from 0.1 to 1 nanometer. These are the particle size that are present in solutions. Now, these particles are too small that they cannot be seen with the naked eyes. Size are so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eyes, ordinary or even electron microscope. Now, these particles are so small that if we want to pass it from the filter paper, if for example this is a filter paper, if this is a filter paper and we have solution within this beaker, and if you pour this solution in the beaker, we will obtain the solution dropwise. So all the particles that are present in the solution will pass through this filter paper. It means these particles are so small that they can pass through the filter paper. Now filter papers are of two types. One is ordinary filter paper and the second one is ultra filter paper. So ultra filter paper or ordinary filter paper cannot filter solutions. In case of ordinary filter paper, the pore size are large. while in case of ultrafilter paper the pore size are very small. But in case of solution, since the particle size is in between 0.1 to 1 nanometer, hence they can pass through ordinary as well as ultrafilter paper. Now we have another property of solution, that is dispersion of light. So if we have any glass in which we have a solution, if we pass some light from this solution, so what would happen? There would be no dispersion of light. There would be no dispersion of light in case of solutions, because the particle size of solutions are very small. Now we will discuss about colloids. That what are colloids? So colloids are heterogeneous mixture. Colloids are heterogeneous mixture. Solution was homogeneous mixture, and in case of colloids they are heterogeneous mixture. Now what do you mean by hetero? Hetero means different and geneous means phase. Geneous means phase. Heterogeneous mixture of tiny particles of a substance dispersed through a medium is called colloid. Apparently, colloids look like homogeneous solutions. Like we have discussed earlier that solution are homogeneous mixture. So if you look apparently, so colloids are just like homogeneous mixture that are solutions. Now in case of colloids, we have two components. One is known as dispersed phase, while second one is dispersion medium. Dispersion medium. It is just like a solution. In case of solution, we use solute in lesser amount, while we use solvent in a greater amount. So same is the case with the colloids. But in case of colloids, we call solute as dispersed phase, while we call solvent as a dispersion medium. Now, colloids are generally opaque. What do you mean by opaque? It means they do not allow light to pass through them. They do not allow light to pass through them. But there are some colloids that are also transparent. Now if we talk about the size of the colloidal particle, that is from 1 to 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer. This is the particle size of colloids. So as we have discussed earlier, that in case of solution the particle size is from 0.1 to 1 nanometer, while in case of colloid the particle size varies from 1 to 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer. Now these particles can be seen under electron microscope. If you want to see the particles that are present in the colloids, we have to use electron microscope. We have to use electron microscope. We cannot see it with the help of ordinary microscope. We need to have an electron microscope in order to see the particles of colloids. Now another property is dispersion of light. As we have discussed earlier, that solution cannot disperse light, but in case of colloids have the property that they show dispersion. They can disperse the incoming white light. As you can see, we have a source of light. We are using flashlight, and flashlight is producing light. Now the first beaker contains a solution. So as you can see, in case of solution there is no scattering of light occur. But once this light passes from a colloid, it shows scattering. Scattering of light has occurred. So it means that colloid have the property that they can disperse the light, that they can show the phenomena of dispersion of light. Here we have few examples of colloids. For example, you have foams, milk, fog, detergents, cosmetics, paints, blood, etc. Now these all are the example of colloids in our daily life. In winter you often observe fog. Fog consists of Now fog consists of finely divided droplets of water suspended in air. Fog scatter light from the headlights of an automobile. You might have observed that sunlight shining through a window is scattered by the dust particle. Hence, fog and dust particle suspended in air are the examples of colloids. Now the next one is suspension. Mix a small quantity of sand in a glass of water. Here we have a glass of water in which we have added a little amount of sand into it. You will observe sand particle remain suspended at first. At first instant, as you can see that these sand particles are suspended, then gradually settle to the bottom. As you can see in the bottom, you can see the sand particle. Now, such a heterogeneous mixture containing particle large enough to be seen with the naked eyes. So as you can see, these sand particles settling at the bottom of the beaker or a glass can be seen with the help of naked eyes, and it can be clearly distinct from the surrounding fluid. Now this is termed as suspension. This is called suspension. Now if we talk about the particle size of the suspension, that are greater than 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer, that are greater than 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer, and cannot pass through ordinary filter paper. If you have an ordinary filter paper and if you want to filter the suspension, then what would happen? The particle of suspension will not pass through the filter paper. Now what is the reason? The reason is their sizes are very large. The particle size that are present in suspension, they are very large and they would be trapped inside the holes or pores of a filter paper. Now if you see, the particle size are very greater. So once if a light is passed from the suspension, what would happen? It would scatter light because the particle size are very greater, so they can show the scattering of light, just like colloids. Now here we have a table which shows the comparison of properties of solution, suspension and colloids. So as we have discussed, this solution is a homogeneous mixture, while the particle size of solution varies from 0.1 to 1 nanometer. Particles are invisible by naked eyes, ordinary microscope as well as electron microscope. The particle size are so small that they cannot be seen with naked eyes even with the electron microscope. Now the particle size can pass through ordinary as well as ultrafilter paper because the particle size are too small. The fifth property is they cannot scatter light. Now in case of suspension, suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. Particle size is greater than 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer. Now particles are visible by naked eyes, as we have discussed an example of sand and water. Particle cannot pass through ordinary as well as ultrafilter paper. They have the property that they can scatter light. Now come toward the colloids, which we have discussed earlier. Colloids are heterogeneous mixture. Particle size varies from 1 to 10 raised to the power 3 nanometer. Particles are invisible by naked eye and an ordinary microscope, but visible under electron microscope only. Particles can pass through ordinary filter paper but cannot pass through the ultrafilter paper. Now they also show the scattering of light. So this was all about comparison of properties of solution, suspension and colloids.